and welcome back to the Edu Talk Pod. I'm Nikita, and joining me are some of my friends. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I'm Tejaswini. I took PCMT combination in JC, Physics, Chem, Math, and H2 Tamil. I didn't go for any tuition.
Hello, I'm Jia Yi and I took GLM, so Geog, Econs, Lit, and H1 Math. And I went for tuition for everything except PW.
Hey, hi, I'm Alison. I took biochemistry, math, econs, H1 econs in JC, and I had tuition for bio, chem, math, and GP. Yes.
And I took biochem, math, and econs in JC, and I had tuition for chem, math, and econs. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of nuance when it comes to the topic of tuition and whether or not like you need tuition as a student in Singapore, because there's tuition centers everywhere and a lot of people do go for tuition. So what do you guys think is like the primary reasons you should go for tuition, or like you don't need tuition?
I think primarily, right, if you want to go for tuition, it's more like whatever in school isn't helping you to the point where you want to be. Like you want to achieve this kind of academic results, but the things you learn in school, or like what you're taught or the way you're taught, isn't producing the results. So you're like, lol, let me go for tuition.
I think mainly it's because you are falling behind in school. Usually people feel like their exams and then most of the time the parents are also very concerned, and a lot of parents think that tuition is the solution because it is so widespread in Singapore. Yeah, so usually that's why people go for tuition.
Yeah. And you said you didn't go for any tuition, right? So why do you think that that worked for you? Like what was the reason you didn't go for any tuitions?
I didn't go for any tuition because I was already going to school, and I mean, not in that way, but I felt like what I was getting from school itself was enough for me. I also didn't feel like I would be able to cope with the stress of having one more thing in my plate. I feel like tuition, instead of helping me, would just be another item for me to stress over. Especially because tuition is like really expensive, right? So for me, if I would think that this thing is really expensive, but if it isn't really helping me, or if it really is helping me, either way I would be really stressed because I would need to show results for it, right? If I didn't show results for it, then it would become a waste, and I think I would be stressed over that.
I think that for some people, the school system may not actually work as well for them as others, because I think that for some people, lecture-based learning may not work out so well. For example, for me, I prefer it when I can interact with the teacher when I'm learning something, and ask questions on the spot and answer the teacher's questions as well. I feel like when I'm participative in class, it's easier for me to learn more. So I feel like tuition is better in that sense because the class sizes are usually smaller, and you can always ask the teacher for any questions. Even if you're like learning at home, usually some teachers, they don't give you like their number, so like you have to email them if you want to ask them a question. And also like they have like hours that you can talk to them, and then after that you can't really talk to them. But I feel like it's more like free when it comes to tuition, because a lot of tuition teachers, like maybe of course if you text them at 2 a.m. they won't respond to you lah, but like if you you can still text them after maybe 7 p.m. and it'll be fine, and they will usually like respond to you and help you. So I think that that's kind of nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the point that you said about classroom learning versus lecture-based learning, I think that really makes sense because personally, I really, really like classroom learning. It's one of the first things that I missed when I went into JC. I found it hard for me to transition from secondary school. It's like classroom learning. The teacher will talk to you, ask questions, interact, have group discussions, things like that. But then in JC, it was all this one person standing in front pouring away the slides, and then you'd have to like take down notes. I found it really difficult to transition, but what worked for me is that I realized that I could self-learn. So JC made me realize that. But in secondary school, the teacher was kind of spoon-feeding me, but it was more in tune with my learning style. So I didn't really discover the need for me to self-learn. But in JC, I discovered that I could self-learn. And I feel like most students, as far as I know from what I've talked with my friends, they find that lecture-based learning or self-learning, which is like it doesn't really suit their needs. So I think that's why they turn to tuition as another learning method.
I think, right, actually for me, it's like, personally, I'm not the most disciplined person. So like, you teach me what you teach in school, and then I'll go home and I'll forget it. So like, and like, my parents keep telling me to revise and stuff, but like, I just don't have the motivation or the discipline to do that. So honestly, tuition was like somewhat like revision for me, but like with the extra guidance, of course. So okay, but that's like a very personal thing because I'm just not that great of a student, you know.
Okay, I think another reason why is because I feel like I'm quite a slow learner. So in school, in JC, the pace is very fast. Like 1 or 2 weeks, they cover one topic. And yeah, because some subjects, they use like SLS, they do videos. So it's like, okay, sometimes people fall behind on the lectures or whatever. But I feel like, I couldn't really learn well. So then for some subjects like math, I started to fall behind. Yeah.
I think you brought up like a good point there, like with the discipline and stuff. Because I think even if you go for tuition, at the end of the day, it does come down to your discipline. So you can pay for all the tuitions in the world. You can even go for one-on-one private tuition, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really change anything if you still don't put in your own work. Because like I feel like at least maybe for like primary school and secondary school, going for tuition may be enough for you to like get A's and stuff. But in JC, it's definitely not enough because like you never know what they're gonna ask in your exams. It's like some of the questions can be really weird. You need to know exactly like what style you should be able to answer them in. So I think that discipline is very important whether or not you go for tuition also.
Cool. Yeah, you said something about tuition being more suited to secondary school, right? Yeah, I think that really makes sense because in secondary school you can practice and drill. In primary and secondary school, you can just practice and drill without really knowing the subject or the concepts thoroughly, and you can still do well. But in JC, you have to really know and understand comprehensively like the subject if you want to do well. And it also brings up another point about the nature of subjects. For example, math, it's more of a practice-based learning. Chemistry, also practice-based learning. But physics and GP especially, it's not really you can't really practice. No matter how hard you practice, right, you would still need that discipline to learn the concept by yourself, because it is just not overcome by drilling and practice, So I think tuition would help to for the drill based subjects like math and chem, but not really so much for other subjects like GP or Tamil in my case.
No, but I think that one also depends, because I think that like for GP, the thing that tuition does is that it helps you like get more examples and more exposure. Like you can technically do that yourself lah, but they do it for you faster and in a condensed manner. So I think that I think all types of tuition help, but then they help you in like different aspects of the subject. Like GP, like they cannot really train you for the questions, but they can train you in the way that you know a wide variety of things that is needed to answer the question. But for like math or chem, they show you the wide variety of possible questions. So yeah, that's the difference lah.
Like I think for econs, right, what really helped me was, in terms of tuition wise, right, is that I took it from the very start. Like I took it in like J1 February like that. So it was like the practice was consistent, so I was actually keeping up with the content. But like, if I felt that, especially for econs, right, if I hadn't taken tuition and I fell behind, there have been like no way I caught up, because it's just such a subject, you know.
Yeah.
I think another thing that tuition really helps you with is because in school, right, the teacher is just so like focused on trying to finish the syllabus. Okay, so they just like teach the content, you do practices. But I feel like tuition teaches you more of the skills, especially things like GP or maybe bio. Like things that you may not be able to learn from school. So like you may be able to pick it up slowly yourself over time. But like learning how to look at the like application based questions, or learning how to distill essay question. Like, oh, when you look at the essay question, what do you do? What do you look out for? Yeah, I feel like so for some subjects they may give you like other tips that school teachers do not. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think that if you like your tuition teacher may help review your work more. I don't know if that's the case for also not in the way lah, more like it's easier to consult your tuition teacher than it is to consult your school teacher. So because your school teacher is usually very booked, because they don't just have your one class, they have like a bunch of classes, and then apart from that they have like their own admin work, then they have their CCA that they're in charge of. So like they have like maybe a few hours in the evening. If you want to consult them, you have to like book a consultation like a week or 2 weeks prior. So, and you also have to like find a time that works for both of you. And on the other hand, like your tuition teacher, maybe like you can just go up to them like when your class starts and be like, hey, can you stay back for a while so I can ask you some questions or something like that. And I think it's just much easier to get that consult from your tuition teacher. And like for econs and stuff, my tuition teacher was able to like mark a lot of like essays and case study questions, which I think was very useful. I mean, maybe it took her like 2 weeks, but I feel like in school, they don't really mark your work, because I feel like apart from assessments, the only marking I got for econs was like peer marking, which isn't really that great either, because my peer is not a teacher. I don't know if like, you know, they are hitting all the points that the teachers want. Yeah. So I feel like tuition can help that way also. Yeah.
I have something to add on. Okay, so like what you said, right? I don't know if other people feel this, but I always felt like there was a barrier between me and the school teacher more than it tuition wise. Like it was like when I consult them, it's just that if I wanted consultation, my first thought would be my tuition teacher, not really my school teacher. First, I'm not sure why also. It's like it feel like maybe it's like a professional barrier, you know. It's like also it depends, because like tuition teachers sometimes they're more informal with you in that sense. So you feel more comfortable to like ask them questions. At least that was what happened for me.
Okay, I think personally I actually did a lot of consults with both my tuition teachers and school teachers, but I did with different people. So maybe in school, okay, but I wouldn't do it for all subjects also. Like only teachers that I vibe with, you know. Yeah. So some teachers that I feel maybe I don't really understand their like how they teach, or don't like their teaching style, then I wouldn't have consults with them lah. Okay, because I feel like tuition is just 2 hours a week, right? If you don't do anything, that alone is not magically gonna help you lah. So especially the second half of J2, I feel like I did a lot of consults with my tuition teacher. Like after class, then you can easily ask questions compared to what we say about school teachers. Like they have very limited slots. Like, oh, maybe at most you can meet them once every 2 weeks. And another point is that for tuition, you can choose your teachers. So yeah, that you can choose a teacher that matches your learning style. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also the case of resources, which I feel like a lot of tuition resources are better than school resources. But at the same time, I guess they have to be, that's like a very important reason of why you go for tuition. If the resources aren't as good as school, then it's like a waste of your money, you know. Like I feel like for like topic notes for tuition, they just summarize what the school notes says in a more understandable way, at least for me. Like maybe the school notes is 50 pages and my tuition notes is like 18 pages. Like, wow, that's amazing. You just filtered out all the unnecessary stuff for me. And it's like so much easier to like learn the topic because like you have all the important stuff here for me. And like also like tuitions that have like summary notes. It's amazing. Like my math tuition had this summary booklet. And so I never touched my school math notes. Because the summary booklets had like all the formulas, everything, and then like apart from that, like the tuition notes were just like the important parts of the topic, and then it was all just questions for math. So I don't know. I feel like once I came to tuition, I learned the topic, then I understand already. So like if my school is faster than tuition, then I struggle a bit because for math, we had SLS learning, so it was like the online videos, and it didn't really work very well for me because when we started having tutorials for a topic, my teacher at least would already expect us to have done the tutorial. So if I didn't understand the topic that they taught me in school, then basically I'm screwed. Yeah, and like I don't really have a way to ask my teacher beforehand. Because the first time we come back, she's like, I hope you all have attempted the tutorial. Like, I don't understand the topic. I haven't attempted the tutorial. So in tuition, if I don't understand something, I can just be like, I don't understand what you're saying right now. Can you please explain it to me? And then like he'll grill it into my head until I understand. So I feel like that's really good. Yeah.
And I think tuition can save you a lot of time because I know people like to make their own notes lah. But then if like your tuition already provides you with like succinct notes, then you don't need to spend so much time making notes yourself, finding out what's important. Because if you're learning the topic for the first time, you may not know what's important yet or what you need to know. Yeah.
Like for me, I'm not very good at writing notes. So usually what happens when I write notes is I end up writing everything. So it's not really notes because it's just everything in the textbook but like written in my handwriting. So maybe it helps me like when I'm like relearning or revising a subject, I will write it down. But I don't make it into notes because I just write down everything in the main like the school notes or like the tuition notes just to help me learn. Because I feel like once I start writing my own notes, firstly, it will take... I don't know if this is normal or not, but for me, it takes a few hours to write notes for one topic.
Yeah.
Like even if the topic is like really small, it takes me a really long time.
Yeah.
And I've like sometimes you feel like you don't have that kind of time,
Yeah.
you know? But also secondly, it's not like my notes are that good. So sometimes I'll spend a really long time writing notes. And then at the end of the day, I won't even use the notes because they're not that good. So... for me, it's waste my time. But then like when the notes are already summarized for me in tuition resources, I feel like that's really helpful because it helps me save my time. Like I remember like my chemistry tuition, I think one of the equilibrium chapters, acid-base equilibrium, the school notes was like 50 pages and then my tuition notes was like 20 pages. So that was really good. And I feel like I could understand my tuition notes better than my school notes also. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great point. But you know, just to counterpoint you. Yeah. I understand this is like a personal thing. It might not apply to a lot of people, but I am a note maker and I don't enjoy making notes, but it really helps me. It really helps me, so I have to kind of do it. So why it helps me is that me writing notes is how I study for a subject. Like, so you told me that tuition, it's like, oh, it just summarizes a chapter for you, so you can just study the tuition notes and you can understand it. But personally, I don't really like being given a summarized notes itself. I like to look through and pick out the parts that I want to write in my notes by myself, because maybe it's a trust issue, but or maybe it's like me just wanting to wanting to process it myself and realize it myself, or like learn myself what is the important parts, because it's like how I write notes is that after like a test, or after doing a worksheet or an assignment on that subject, or on that chapter, I will review that chapter and then I'll write notes after that. I don't just write notes after I'm being given the school notes. So I think having that layer of filter of that assessment will really help me to make proper notes that are useful. Whereas being given a set of notes for me to study, I wouldn't really feel motivated to study. That's one. And two, I feel like it wouldn't benefit me as much as me writing my own notes, even though it's exhausting. Yeah.
It's like different learning styles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because I think for me, the only reason I would write notes is because everyone around me is writing notes. So I'm like, so do I have to write notes for this topic? Especially like bio. It's like everyone writes bio notes one way or another usually. Most people at least. So I'm like, is that what I'm doing wrong for bio? If I write notes, will I do better for bio? But that really was not the case. I feel like writing notes just took up a lot of my time, and I don't know why. I don't know why note writing just doesn't work for me lah, I think. So it's like case by case, person by person. It depends on your learning style. But I mean, okay, my tuition teachers, they actually recommend us to like read through the school notes once or twice first. So you get like all the contextual stuff. And then like you look at the tuition notes to look at what's important. Because like, just like how you said like you're insecure that you're going to miss, like the notes will miss something. For me, it's like I'm insecure that I'll miss something and I'll end up picking out everything from the notes. That's the problem. So I don't know what's important, and this helps me to find it. Yeah.
Actually, like you said something about notes making, and I get you. I completely feel you. Like I make notes and then they get like thrown in the corner somewhere. Like even if they're like like neat and stuff, I don't really like read my own notes. I feel like for me, I learn better when people explain it to me. Like so, like actually most of my learning came from like school teacher explaining, tuition teacher explaining, or my friends explaining. So like, yeah, I guess like for me it helped because for tuition, right, you get that extra chance for them to explain again. So like, because it's like in school you learn it once, but like in tuition, right, it's like they like refresh the thing for you again. Then you're like, oh, okay, and you're also like more sure of, I guess, that topic lor.
Yeah, I agree a lot of that because I also don't like to make notes. I think they're a waste of time for me. So yeah, it takes up too much time, and I don't think I know like what exactly to put in the notes. But also the part you say about them explaining. Okay, so sometimes you may not understand a chapter in school, but then you don't really want to ask your teacher to teach you the whole thing again because they may be like, what were you doing when I taught this? You know? Yeah, so then, but like with your tuition teachers, usually you can just ask them to explain the chapter again, or they may have a lot of like revision classes where they teach the chapters again. So yeah.
So we just talked about like the pros and cons of having tuition, but now how do we know if our tuition actually helps us? Because for some subjects, like you have like maybe 4 exams a year, and like wasting one whole term in a tuition that doesn't really help you is not that great, right? Like it's basically a waste of your money. So, you know, how do you know if you need to stop and change tuition or if you just continue?
Oh, I think right, in some sense it's like a vibe, cause like you once you like you're in the tuition for like maybe 1 or 2 lessons, you know if it's going well for you or not. Like if you're there and the teacher talks and like, what is he saying? Then that's a sign that you should like quit lah. Like because obviously it's not helping. And also it's like, I guess like when you do like tests and stuff, right? Because tests and exams are supposed to evaluate how well you understand the stuff. You like the answers come out better, come out like easier. You're not like struggling to like what do I say for this, you know? So I guess that's how I know that the tuition is working out for me. So like that was like GP, because like SAQ, right? I used to always like wing it. I just like write whatever comes out to mind. But like after I went for tuition, I was actually following like a format. I was like, I need to say this, I need to say this. So that's when I knew that it was actually helpful for me lah.
What you say about the vibes, right? Sometimes, yeah, because okay, the thing about JC is I feel that the exams get harder and harder. So sometimes your grades may not be the best indicator. Especially like J2 mid-year exams, right? Usually that's when everyone's results are like the worst. So like you may have tuition, but you may still be doing really badly. And actually throughout JC, I never got like a single A for anything. So then it's also a bit scary because how do you know if the tuition is gonna help you get an A or like even a B eventually? So I feel okay, some subjects I think what a lot of it is like when you're doing practices or even your exams, as long as you are not doing worse. Like even if you maintain, I feel, but I'm like some subjects like bio, I kind of maintain the same grade, but I feel that I'm actually improving a lot. It's just that the exam may be getting harder. Yeah.
I remember when like econs was like, I remember getting like nice scores for econs, and then prelims came and it slapped me in the face. Like I was like, I actually had to check if it was my name. I was like, whoa, because I came out of the exam hall, I was like, I think I did decent. Like maybe it was a bad paper, but at most it's just a little bit worse than usual. And I saw the score, I was like, that's my name. Oh no, it's my problem now. Yeah.
So when I was in secondary, like Sec 4, I mean upper secondary so I actually changed A math tuition like twice. So only my third one was good. So yeah, I think there are different problems. The pace is too, I think the first one I went, the pace was too slow, the class was too boring, like not engaging. The second one, the pace was too fast. So I feel like also some tuitions may be more suitable for people that already like have a good grasp of the subject, which kind of doesn't make sense, but it's quite prevalent. Like people who are doing well in the subject, they go for tuition because maybe they're scared that they may fall behind. Yeah, so that one was too fast, too quick the pace, so like it didn't even help me at all. So only the third one actually suited my needs lah. Yeah, so sometimes you may have to play around, but the good thing about tuition is that you can choose your teacher, I guess. Yeah, unlike school where you're just stuck whether you like your teacher or not.
You get this teacher, that's all. Yeah. Oh, I was so sad when my JC one teacher left, cause like, and there was like two good teachers ditching together. So I was like, what happened to us then? Like,
yeah, I think you mentioned that like people who score well still go to tuition because they're like scared, right? And I think that apart from that, there's also people who do well whose parents make them go to tuition because they want their kids to maintain their grades lah. So sometimes maybe the kid doesn't even need tuition, but then the parents are like, no, you have to go for tuition. Cause my mom was like, oh, you can go for like in JC, when in the start of JC, one mom was like, you can go for 2 tuitions, but you have to go for math tuition. Which I was like, that's peculiar because math is my best subject, and I don't know why you would put me for tuition in my best subject. That doesn't make sense because that's not what tuition's for, you know? So yeah, like what do you guys think about like parental perspectives on, you know, tuition?
so like, it's just like, I feel like sometimes, right, the thing about JC is that your grades aren't, like what y'all said, right, that your grades aren't like the most reflective or how well you're actually doing, because it's very like different from A-level marking also. Like I remember I was getting like maybe like C's in geography, but actually like that would have translated to like not a C, maybe a B, hopefully an A. I can't tell, but like definitely a better grade than C, because the teachers just like to like mark you down. So like I don't know why, but like it was a thing. So it's like, so my parents was like, oh, you want to get a C for A-level? Is that what you want to get a C for A-level? No, you have to go for tuition. And I just couldn't like, I think I couldn't really get through to them that I was getting C because of the marking, not because I couldn't do a jog. So they sent me to tuition. I mean, it would have been nice if the tuition was helpful, but it wasn't. So it was kind of like every week I waste 2 hours lor. I mean, I guess you can't say it's like completely not helpful. I would say I guess the notes helped, but the notes were other schools' notes. So that's the thing. But it wasn't like, I guess it didn't reach the full potential of what a tuition should be doing, like, which is like actually pushing you further. It was just a bit of additional notes lor. Like okay, like wow, there goes my money. But I mean, my parents were paying, and they were the one who forced me into it, so I can't really say anything. Yeah.
So I mean I have some friends who even have like for one subject they have 2 tuitions, and then maybe they already have tuition for like all their subjects. But I know some parents who actually they want to fill up their children's time with like all studying. So other than tuition, you go home, you just study, you do your homework, and the rest of the time you are just doing tuition. So like I think one reason is actually because parents feel like they cannot help their children personally. Like, you know, they have no idea what's going on in chemistry or whatever. So, but then as a parent, they really want to help their child. So then like, what's the easiest way? Easiest, I guess, but it's very expensive, but from their point of view, they can just they just send you for the best tuition that they think can help you lah, and that's their way of like supporting you, I guess. Yeah, but some parents definitely go overboard. So I know of friends who are a bit similar to you. Like they even tell their parents that the tuition is not helping, but like their parents just think that they can't do it themselves. You know, they need the tuition, so like they still send them for it anyways. Yeah.
I think also in some case, right, it's like there for reassurance. Like you see all your other parents, like parents are surrounded by more parents. Then you see that their child are going for tuition. They're like, oh, maybe my children need tuition too. It's like, it's just like a yeah, exactly. FOMO.
Yeah. I think for me it was kind of weird because my mom's like in JC1, my mom said I can only go for 2 tuitions maximum. And one of them had to be my best subject, which kind of defeats the purpose of tuition because I wanted to go for tuition for chem and bio. But in the end, I ended up going for tuition for math and chem. And I ended up just not getting any bio tuition, which I still think would have helped me. But, well, I already graduated, so yeah. I mean, after that in JC2, I got econs tuition, but that's because my parents saw that I was consistently struggling for econs. So they were like, okay, fine, we'll put you in tuition. But, you know.
Do you think it has something to do with what subjects the parents think is more important or personally think is more valuable? Because going a bit like it's a bit of a stereotype, but Indian parents usually think that their children need to be good in math and science. They put a lot of emphasis on math and science especially. So I feel like your mom probably, I'm just guessing, probably thought that she really valued math as a subject, so she wanted you to be good at math. Or a lot of parents, I feel like another thing is that they think that tuition is the reason why their children is doing well. So they don't think it's their children's efforts, but it's the tuition's result that is making them do well. So I think from the parent side, it's important to realize where the results are coming from. Maybe it's the tuitions, but maybe it's your children's thing effort also,
So moving on, I think that one thing about tuition is that it's so sought after. Like so many people go for tuition to the point where it's like a very lucrative business. So there's a lot of tuition centers in Singapore. There's like a complete abundance. I feel like wherever you go, like you go to a mall or you just walk on the street, anywhere you go, like there's going to be a tuition center somewhere around. So I feel like because of that, that's like one of the main reasons why tuition can be so expensive. It's because it's something that's very sought after. So in that case, right, I think that some people who maybe want to go for tuition can't because sometimes it becomes unaffordable for people. So Yeah, what do you guys think about that?
I think the tuition industry really capitalizes on Singapore's competitive education system. I think everyone can agree that like from primary school onwards, I mean even before that, like primary school onwards itself is like really really competitive. Parents send their children to tuition centers like mind stretchers or something. I think it's really targeted at a younger audience because people want to start early on to outcompete the other students so that they can get placements at better institutions or just get better opportunities. They want to send their children to like elite schools. So I think they use tuition as a mode for that. I think that's why you're very right about tuition being a lucrative industry because it really capitalizes on Singapore's extremely over competitive education system.
I feel like, right? Sorry. It's like when you combine like business and like education, which is a necessity, it gets very iffy, especially in terms of like ethics. Because at what point is it like when you go for tuition, at what point is it like they're helping you or they're trying to market this tuition towards you? Because like I know that especially like when I see on like Reddit, right, a lot of people when they complain, it's always about like, oh, I feel like they're just trying to bribe me. Oh, I feel like they just want me to like pay them the money for the tuition. It's like you can't really like, how do I say, you don't, it's just that like level of trust is kind of like diminished. So you're not like, can I like fully trust them that they have my best interest at heart? So it's like when it's an education, like it's so serious, right? Because it can't determine your future. You want them to have your best interest at heart. You want them to like care about you, right? You don't want them to be like you're a paying customer and they want you to spend as much money as you want. But like when it's so like lucrative and like expensive, it's just kind of offsetting sometimes. Like I get trust issues.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And also like now there's even tuition for kindergarten kids. So like before parents even know that their kid actually needs tuition, they just send them because they think that it'll benefit them.
Is that for real?
Yeah, apparently.
Wait, what did they even teach in kindergarten?
I have no idea. Like, yeah, how to count?
I
don't
think
know.
parents
Like,
send
maybe
their
how
kids
to
to
read.
abacus classes. Like my friends when I was younger, they would go for abacus classes and my mom would be like, why are you sending them to abacus classes? They can barely count. Like
Yeah, exactly. It's like so much that parents are doing to get their kids ahead, which like obviously it stems from a place of wanting your kids to do well, especially in such a competitive space. But at the same time, it's like at a certain point, it's kind of excessive, and especially when you're making your kids who don't really need some of these resources to that you're making them go, they can really start to resent the concept of learning as a whole, because the whole point of learning is supposed to be something that you enjoy. Like you have to be able to invoke some joy out of what you're doing for like a major part of your life, right? I feel like when you like put so much stress and emphasis on doing well and always focusing on that one thing, it becomes really stressful for the kid. Like you don't really want to study anymore. It's not something that you find enjoyable. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like parents, right, even though like they can still put their kids for tuition lah. But I feel like they should really make sure that their kids are also having like a good like life outside their studies. So for example, like my parents didn't really put me for abacus class or anything, but from like a very young age, they signed me up for like music lessons. And my mom said that she will not let me quit music lessons because she wants me to have something that I can keep with me throughout my life, which I think is really, really important. She said it doesn't matter like if you're alone or anything, because you can always have music to keep you company, which I think it has so much value. I think an abacus can't keep me company when I'm alone, you know?
Okay, wait. Actually, it's quite funny you say this, but I did have abacus classes. Yeah. So yeah, yeah. So like maybe for 1 year lah. I guess it taught me to do mental sums faster. I'm not very sure. Like primary school lah. Like maybe P1. Yeah.
Did it do anything for you?
I'm not too sure. I don't know. I maybe my parents think so. Like maybe it helped me do some mental sums faster. Yeah, maybe it did lah. Yeah, I think it was quite fun lah. Like I wasn't forced to go, so I think it was okay. Yeah.
But honestly, like, I feel like after all these years, right, I can't really see my life without tuition. Like, you tell me, like, would you have rather, like, not taken tuition? I'm like, what? No, tuition is just life. My life is tuition. Like, it's like, I don't know. I feel like also people find that tuition, the reason why tuition helps is because that it's like, in a sense, it's an addition. Because, like, the school, like maybe let's say the school teaches you the first 50%, so your understanding is like 50%, but the tuition pushes you to like maybe 100, but you only see the fact that the tuition pushed you to 100. You don't see that school in itself has helped you like learn something already. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But I think because like academic success is still so emphasized in Singapore, that's why people are willing to pay like 100 an hour, 120 an hour, 150 an hour. Like even like for private tuition lah. So that part is maybe a bit controversial. That like some tutors set super high prices because they know that there's people who wants their service lah. Although I mean they have to be really good tutors in the first place lah. Yeah.
but then again, who doesn't want to be rich?
Yeah. Yeah. But no, it's okay. You can say.
Yeah, and then that again comes back to who really needs tuition, right? Because definitely there are people who think that like tuition is really like it will help them a lot, because sometimes like maybe because of the school system will not help me as much, and maybe the tuition might help me better. Like of course there's like a lot of people like that. So some people do need tuition, but it's not accessible anymore. Like it's additional to school, so obviously it's not easy to make it something that's accessible to everyone. But it's come to the point where like you have to be at a certain socioeconomic status to be able to go for tuition. It's not something that everyone can choose to go for, right? Which
I think that's an issue. Yeah, it's a very good issue because it widens. Sorry. Do you wanna?
Okay. Yeah, I think we should talk about how like it's such a privilege to have tuition, and like parents who are willing to spend so much, because most people have tuition for like years. Maybe okay, it depends, but like it's generally very expensive lah, and so not everyone can afford. And if you cannot afford, but you still need that help, then does it like make you fall behind or exacerbate like inequality?
That was along the lines of what I wanted to say. It really, tuition is like one of the factors that widens the gap between the different social and economic statuses. Like people who really need tuition but are privileged enough to be who are privileged enough to be well off, they can afford tuition. But those who really need it but they cannot do so are definitely disadvantaged. And those who, and like what we've been talking about for quite some time now, a lot of students don't really need tuition, but they actually, their parents or for whatever factor, they go for tuition, and it actually helps them. Definitely will help them to some extent at least. They are able to also gain an unfair advantage. Some would argue that it's fair because they have the money, they can do it, so it's fair, whatever. But they can nevertheless have that advantage over those who really need it. So I think the tuition industry being so focused on profits, I think it really widens the socioeconomic gap between.
I feel like, because like education is technically like somewhat a filter. Like you filter out the people who are like good and the one who are like not that good in like academic wise. Like the argument that tuition is unfair, right? It's like maybe I feel like maybe it defeats the purpose of education being a filter, because when you have rich people or like well-off people who can afford to push their child further, then it like it tips the bell curve. You get what I mean? Like if no one had tuition, then the bell curve will look very different. And the people on the higher end of the bell curve will also be very different. You have more like not so well off people who are there, but like people who are like less lower income, right? They have to like push themselves extra hard just because the higher income peers can afford tuition but they can't. So yeah. I've had like I think I talked to like one junior who was in the tuition center that I was in, and she was talking to me about how like she's like stressed, like even herself she has the financial stress at her age because she don't know if her parents can like continue to afford the tuition, but she feel that the tuition is a need because it's quite expensive. But it's like, oh, and you talk about how tuition can be additional pressure, right? I realized like a lot of my friends, not a lot of my friends, some of my friends or like some people that I know, it's like they can't really afford tuition. It's like a bit out of the income bracket, but they still like get it because it's like it's viewed as a necessity. So like, but like they're at like, I feel like we shouldn't be at our age, we really shouldn't be worrying about finances, especially when you have like academic worries already. But then tuition, then it brings in like additional finance concerns. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think tuition also brings a lot of additional stress because you're spending so much money and also time, like your parents' money. So if you're still not doing well, then like are you just wasting all their money, you know? Yeah, so it's even more stress. Yeah.
And then also now, because like tuition is so expensive, it's also to the point where now teaching tuition is viewed as like a stable job. In some other countries, it may not be viewed as much of a stable job, but in Singapore, it is. Some teachers, what they do is that they go to NIE, they get their certificate, and then they complete their bond, and then they quit whatever school they're teaching in, and they go straight into tuition teaching. There's a lot of teachers who do that because teaching has just become such a secure job opportunity that like some people go into teaching just to become tuition teachers instead of school teachers. So sometimes really, really good teachers will end up teaching in tuitions instead of school because the tuition job pays them more. Yeah. So in that sense, right, now because the tuition industry is so large and so many people are going to become teachers just so they can become tuition teacher, it's also come to this point where Singapore can't really do much about the prevalence of tuition because like in China, they stop. But in tuition, but for Singapore, it's so different because so many people's jobs relies on the tuition industry. There's so many tuition teachers, so many people who are wanting to be tuition teachers. Now, if you stop tuition as a whole, so many people are going to be unemployed. There's going to be a whole like economic thing for Singapore because like our working class already so small and there's going to be like a huge chunk of it.
Yeah, so someone I know recently told me that the tuition industry is comparable to the healthcare industry in the sense that there is a government sector and a private sector. So tuition teachers can be compared to healthcare workers. Obviously, the private sector pays more than the government sector, but the government part section is more available. It's more affordable by even the lower people from the lower socioeconomic status. So and like you said, a lot of tuition teachers or doctors for that matter, they initially start off in the government sector, but then they want to make more money or for whatever reason they move on to the private sector, right? So I guess it's really a balance between making profits and a service mentality, and whichever the person, the tuition teacher or the doctor values more, I guess their choice should be respected and they can make their choice accordingly. Yeah, and it can't really fault the person for choosing either because they're both valid standpoints.
Yeah, in the sense that sometimes you can be a really good teacher, but rationally, as any person would, like, wouldn't you want to profit the most out of the job that you do. I feel like if you can find a job that pays higher than another job and you're basically doing the same thing, obviously there's a higher chance of you going for the higher paying job. So I feel like the fact that a lot of tuition teachers, a lot of teachers basically go through their bond, finish their bond, and then go to teaching. I feel like that isn't something that's like faultable, because it makes sense for you to want to earn more money for the job that you do. Like,
Yeah, I think it's very logical. If you're really good at teaching, then why wouldn't you want to do basically the same job? And also, it has its benefits. You don't need to do admin things in school. And most of the time, the students there actually want to learn, because I feel like in school, not every student's interested in learning. Yeah, but at tuition, you have a more, like, these people paid money to come here. So
Just for your services
Yeah.
specific.
yeah.
I feel like this idea is like consistent throughout industries. Like no matter what industry you are, you want to be the higher paid ones. But it's just that when it touches like sensitive sectors like education or medicine or like healthcare, right? Then you start thinking about ethical concerns. But I guess sometimes we forget that tuition teachers are like people too who have a life, need to pay rent. And yeah.
Yeah, and also it's not exactly like mutually exclusive lah. Like because they still want to provide a service and they may still like really care about their students. It's just that while doing the same job, they can earn more money. So
I actually knew a tuition teacher who like, why did I say knew? I still know him. Yeah, anyways, I know a tuition teacher who's like, he actually like allows like people who can't pay for lessons into his class, like to sit for a few lessons. And I was like, wow.
yeah, some tuitions they have
That's
like
so
some
inspiring.
schemes where you can
that to help it's like the little things you do for the
yeah, but I feel like for that to work, I feel like it works better when your tuition center is more established, right? I feel like if you're starting a new center, or your center is really small, it's much harder to set up those schemes. Which is also, I guess, why like in like government sector jobs, like for like teaching and education, it's easier for you to like get like your financial assistance schemes, because you have the government's help. It's not like a private thing. But when it becomes private and you're like kind of paying out of pocket for your own services, it's a bit harder. And also because now there's like, because of the fact that so many people are coming into the tuition industry, there's so many new startup tuition companies and centers that are coming up. So a lot of them can't offer that financial assistance. But I think it's good that like at least the bigger centers offer those. Yeah, exactly. If they have the means to do it, then why not, right? Okay, so moving on to like closing thoughts, right? So what are your maybe hopes or like things that you wish to see in the future when it comes to the tuition industry as a whole, and like the mindset of people when it comes to tuition?
I guess like firstly for parents, I feel like at some point maybe this is specifically for JC, because like your kids are already like this old. I think you should kind of like trust them in how they decide, like what they decide, what tuition they need for what subjects. Like because like they're also like sort of like more they understand like the subjects better and how the grading system work. And honestly, right, if they are really like not willing to learn, then even if you push them for tuition, it's just not going to help. So I guess parents can be more like open-minded to letting your kids take control of what tuition they want. Then students just work harder. I guess.
I also think that students really need to be honest with themselves. They need to realize what is working for them, or if it's not working for them, I think they need to be honest with it, one, and two, communicate it with their parents, because we can agree that it's a waste of time and money if they continue a tuition if it's not effective for them. Or they should also not be afraid to seek help if they really need it, and they shouldn't feel embarrassed, or they shouldn't feel that extra stress of that financial investment in them, because if it helps them, then I think it is worth it.
Yeah. And I also think that parents should maybe listen to their kids when it comes to maybe if they're doing bad in school, instead of just like directly pushing them to tuition, maybe figuring out if that the problem is that they don't understand their material, or if the problem lies somewhere else. Because tuition is not always the solution to bad grades. Bad grades can arise from many different things, and not just being unable to understand like your lesson material. So I think that parents need to be open to that. And there also needs to be like a change in the mindset in the terms of just constant academic success, and everything like academics given a high priority over every other aspect of your life. Yeah, all the time. Like obviously it should be the main priority at some junctions now, but you should also have other things in your life that makes it meaningful apart from your academic success.
Like focus on the journey more than the destination.
But the destination's also important.
Okay, so I think you guys actually already covered a lot of what I wanted to say lah. Like how tuition is not the immediate solution to your problems, and you need to actually look at why you're doing badly. So maybe I just start for like the student's point of view. Like tuition is not going to help you do well, because you actually need to put in a lot of work like outside tuition. So like your own practices, and maybe how you make use of the tuition resources, or like consulting your teachers. Because I actually heard of some students, right? Like they pay for the tuition, but they don't actually even go for the tuition. So like my tuition teacher actually told me she has students who because she also records her lessons, right? And then they just watch the video recording. So they don't even come for class. And then when she asks them if they want to stop, they don't even want to stop. So like they're just paying for the sake of having tuition. Yeah.
Like just it being there.
Yeah.
That's so.
I think so. Yeah. So I think you really need to decide yourself whether it's necessary for you, or if it's something else. Like maybe you didn't put in enough effort for your exams, or maybe it's your way of learning. Like, were you focusing too much on rote memorization, things like that? Oh yeah, like you focus too much on one subject and neglected. Yeah. So it should be one of the things you think about when you're doing badly, but it may not be the best solution lah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
With that, we come to the end of this episode. Thank you for listening to us. We hope you got some insight about different opinions on the tuition industry in Singapore. Bye.
Bye.